Hi, I'm Ray Young. I'm an emeritus professor from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I'm going to continue with my brief history of Thessaloniki. And today we're going to talk about the turmoil in Thessaloniki as part 5. What I mean by turmoil was all these wars that were caused, that happened in the area of Thessaloniki over a period of about 50 years, 37 years. The Balkan Wars were 1912 to 1913 and resulted in Greek independence. World War I in 1914, and you'll notice 1913 is the end of Greek independence, 1914 begins World War I, followed by the Greco-Turkish War in 1919, and then 20 years later World War II, followed by the Greek Civil War. There weren't many gaps between these various wars, so it was a very distressing situation for the population of Thessaloniki. Okay, the Balkan Wars of 1912 and 1913 resulted in the independence for Greece, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Montenegro versus Turkey. You can see the Greek National Defense Force marching into Thessaloniki, the White Tower in the background on the left. And the Second Balkan War involved making sure the Bulgarians didn't take over Greece. I added this slide of the Cretan gendarmes because they were in town as a security force, and people very much like them. They are handsome men with dark hair, tall with a steady step. Pride lights their faces. So one pleasant instance for a very dark period. And then immediately following, World War I breaks out, 1914. So they're already suffering from the Greek Independence War, and then the Entente come in. The World War I broke out, of course, in Sarajevo when King Duke Ferdinand and Isabella were assassinated by a Bosnian Serb, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire and Germany immediately declared war. And this brought in, on the other side, British, French, Italian, and Russian soldiers. And you can see the British soldiers marching in perfect formation, as well as the Italian soldiers, the Russians marching in and saluting. And then we have the French soldiers. They appear to have stopped for a little Bordeaux wine. These hundred thousands troops came into Thessaloniki. Of course, there was no place to house them, so they encamped outside the eastern wall. Here you can see some of the encampments of these thousands of troops. It really put a lot of stress on the resources of Thessaloniki at the time, food and resources, particularly the water resources. And what happens at this period? A great fire breaks out. A great fire that needs water to put it out. And they had already stressed the water situation. And you can see here on the map, almost half of Thessaloniki burned, the black area, and that's the area inside the walls. And it caused great devastation for Thessaloniki. Now you can see here's some of the devastation. On the top right, a fellow looking over possibly his own family home in total ruins. On the bottom right, you can see that one of the Orthodox churches has survived and was revitalized, I'm sure. There's a minaret still standing. On the left bottom is the harbor area. It went right down to the harbor area and wiped out large sections of Thessaloniki. Now one thing is to note, you'll see the burned out area on the right on the map. If you twist that map a little bit, you'll notice the major area wiped out was the Jewish population, the Jewish neighborhood, which was the southeast section of the town right down to the harbor. So this caused great stress to the Jewish population in the city. And it turns out that of the 70,000 homeless, 50,000 were these Sephardic Jews that had come from Iberia at the bequest of the Turkish Sultan. And you can see the devastation here. Now many of them immigrated to America, France, and South America, but many stayed. They had been here for generations. This was their home, so they rebuilt. So many Jewish did stay in Thessaloniki. But following that great fire, was the Greco in World War I. World War I ended in 1918, and here in 1919, the Greco-Turkish War broke out. And this was after 1918. They had a treaty that redefined the borders between Greece and Turkey, and there was great conflict over this. Turkey went into Greece. Troops went into Turkey, and then there was a great conflagration at Smyrna. And as a result, they had a population exchange. 500,000 Greeks died in Turkey, and this population exchange involved 2 million people. 1.5 million were Greeks. Now, some of these Greeks didn't even speak, and Greeks in Turkey didn't even speak Greek because they had been there for generations. But as you may guess, many of them came to the north. There was a direct land route from Turkey into Thessaloniki and Macedonia. Many went all over Greece and Athens as well. But they had a land route into the northern part, and they came by sea as well. And you can imagine that if thousands of people coming over in this exchange in a city that had just been devastated by fire and the results of World War I. So here's the population demographics in 1926. These wars are over. The population now is blown up to 250,000, mostly Greeks, and a lot of them the Greek immigrants from Turkey. But there is a very substantial Jewish population left of about 20% or 50,000. So what I'm going to talk about next time is some further turmoil in Thessaloniki, some further wars that really affected the culture of the city. Thank you.